Peace and blessings, family. This is your brother, asarimhotep, with the Madhu Mandela Institute for the Advancement of Science and Culture, as well as the Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology. Today is Sunday, May the 9th, 2021, and we are going to have a candid discussion today on why I believe our good brother Kevin Samuels is right on some of his major points that he has been discussing in the quote-unquote manosphere for literally like the past 3 or 4 years, but coming into prominence like within the last year. So we'll get into more what this is about and more when we return in just a bit. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. Again, peace and blessings to all of you who are catching this conversation live. And then, of course, love and light to all of you who couldn't make it live, but who will be viewing the archives. And so, we're going to get right into it today. But before I do that, just a few announcements. Y'all may know that we also have a Patreon page here, and you can help support the page by visiting and joining one of the tiers at patreon.com/asarimhotep. And you'll be doing two things. You'll be helping to help this channel sustain itself and grow. And you'll also be contributing to the development of a documentary film called Shiena Intu. And here we'll be doing a systematic comparison between the ancient Egyptian civilization, its language, culture, philosophy, with modern Bantu speakers and peoples, their philosophy, culture, religion, etc. And so we want this to be a top-notch film, and so your contributions will help tremendously. And so one way in which you can, help that movement forward is by joining the Patreon. So again, that address is patreon.com/asarimhotep. And I see a number of people have already made themselves known in the chat. So peace to Sister Tamika, the Brothers UK, Emmanuel Adama in the building, Juan Lindsay, Duarte, Dr. Duarte Odata, all the way out of Brazil, Jay Carter, what's up, peace and blessings, and Infinite Minds is in the building. And then, of course, all of you who are joining via Facebook, peace and blessings to you as well. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting topic, and it is interesting. I'm trying to limit myself from being on social media because of the things that I'm working on. But when I visit Facebook or Twitter or just YouTube or, Instagram or things of that nature, I'm seeing these conversations centered around Kevin Samuels And I'm listening, I'm reading, and there is a lot of misinformation. One, regarding the individual himself, and then two, his major points. Now, I've been watching Brother Kevin's platform for a while now, and I think I know enough to understand his underlying motivation, purpose, and things of this nature. And this includes going back to the earlier videos. And that's what a lot of people don't do. And so a lot of people have been coming for Kevin Samuels and, with frivolous stuff and stuff that don't even add up. And then, it's primarily women. And a lot of women are upset with him either because, and a lot of us know this, accountability is like kryptonite to a lot of us in this community. Or two, they don't like the way that he speaks. And so they interpret the way that he speaks, because he speaks directly, like men speak to each other. And they take it as an offense when he speaks directly to women, because women are used to flowery words, saying a whole bunch just to get around the point. They don't talk directly to each other that way. So, when men are talking like that to them, they find it to be offensive, some women. And so, you get a mixed bag of feelings when it comes to the information in which he is given. And so I just want to address the whole concept of a high value man. And I've been seeing a lot of, in the so-called Afrocentric community for which I am a part, attempting to vilify him and the message. One, because they don't understand what the message is and the purpose. And two, because they believe in their heart of hearts that it is not African, whatever that is. And so this is what I want to address more specifically. This idea that his major talking points when it comes to the development and the being of a high value man is an un-African, a Eurocentric Western concept. And that is a bunch of BS. And I'm an individual that there's no one on the planet who can argue that I don't know much about Africa. And African philosophy, African history, African languages. You can't put that label on me. And it is amazing that you have these individuals who are supposed to be very well learned, who know very little about Africa, African philosophy, and the underlying things in which they mean and say. And so that's what I want to, address here. And peace to Brother Sean in the building. And so we're just going to get into it. But before I do that, of course, I want to send a big shout out to, of course, all the mothers, because today is Mother's Day. And I was going through one of my old emails from a Hotmail. So yes, I still have a Hotmail address. And this was a picture sent from my uncle, who actually took this photo. So this is a throwback of me and my brothers, and we're missing one brother. So I have four brothers, and my mom's, which is in the center. And so, she is the foundation for all the madness that I give on these internet streets. So no, you can't blame my mama, but she is part of that dynamic. And so shout out and much love to all the mothers, saying out there who are doing their thing and helping to raise a nation. So yeah, this is me back in the day with my locks, And so I may even grow my locks out again. You know, I was dangerous with them locks. I'm just telling y'all now, if I grow my locks again, it's like Samson. I'm being dangerous in these internet streets with locks again. Just wanted to tell y'all that. Anyway, and this summer, I will be releasing this text here, Chiluba Maweja, Yoruba Orisha, and the ancient Egyptian Ak, the exploratory and etymological study. And so this will be from Madu Ndela Press. So y'all be on the lookout for that. And so it is going to be under the Martin Delaney imprint, Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology. And as I've stated before in a previous conversation, this is another book that is going to be released soon. Muntu Wa Nzambi, Portrait of Human as God's Special Creation. And for y'all that don't know, you know, I've started my own publishing company. And so this is going to be the first author of the, besides, you know, myself, who will be published under Madu Ndela Press. And so this is Dr. Shalimalema Mukenge from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And you can see the Madu Ndela, you know, in the back over here. And, you know, he has written a wonderful, wonderful text. And so I'll be doing a whole show on this. This is just a proof copy. So we're just going through it, see if we can find any obvious mistakes and make some changes and then get it ready for print. So this will be available in June. So I'll let everybody know when that is going to be available to everyone. And let me see. Hold on. Somebody says, Africa is a big place with different people and cultures. Indeed. And this is one of the reasons why I have an issue when people say that something is not African. And, you know, for the most part, these folks only know one little area of Africa. And they think that Africa is a monolith. And Africa is not a monolith. Not all the cultures are the same. There's a lot of commonality that you can find between African people in West, Central, South, East Africa. And back in the day, more so when it came to ancient Kemet, that, you know, those same similarities you would find there. But each group is distinct. And they'll have nuances that differentiate them in a major way from other groups. And so when you say something is not African, you know, you have to be very careful with that statement, because that assumes, one, that you have a vast knowledge of African cultures and languages. And, you know, with over 3,000 languages or so, you know, on the continent, you know, living and dying, and cultures and ethnic groups, is, you know, it's impossible for you to make that statement and be accurate. And so this is why, you know, when I do this series, because this is what I'm doing today is part one of a series, and I'm going to show that you will find these concepts, you will find these ideas that you see in discussed with Kevin Samuels all across the continent of Africa. And so when Kevin says something like, this isn't old, I didn't make this up, he's not lying. Like, this has been a part of the culture and everything from the beginning. And so we're going to get into that in just a second. So I want to say thank you for all of you who are just joining, and make sure that y'all that's right. Make sure that you like the video. And for those of you who are new, hit the subscribe button and all that good stuff. And some of y'all need to Hulk smash the like button, and then share it with your friends so they can Hulk smash the like button. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do me a little video clip, a Hulk smash likes, so that when you like it, you just don't like. You slam it like it's dominoes or black people dominoes. In regards to the like button. And so we want those subscriptions up. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. And so we can do some major things. I want to bring all this African madness to the masses. And I can only do that with your help. So we're going to get started. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And yes, I want the entire screen. So boom. And what I'm going to do is go to my presentation here. And so I have a second computer up on the side here. So you may see me look to the side. I'll try my best to kind of keep up with comments or questions, but I can't guarantee anything. And so let me get my drink for tonight. So tonight I'm drinking Naked Drink Berry Veggie, which has a whole bunch of stuff in it. And so it's gluten-free and it's vegan. So yeah, strawberries, beets, cherries, some other stuff. So yeah, so you'll see me sipping on this. So now, and I got a little fridge next to the computer. Anyway, so now, why Kevin Samuels is right, the Congo edition. And so what we're going to be talking about is this whole concept of a high value man. And what I'm going to show is that in Africa, we have the same concepts, and that, there's going to be some slight nuances and some major differences depending on what ethnic group you go to. So today I'm staying in the Congo. I may drift on one or two slides somewhere else, but for the most part, I'm going to stay in the Congo. And to show you that, this concept of leveling up. See, what people don't realize is that Kevin Samuels' channel is a channel geared towards the upliftment and the leveling up of men. And so when Kevin was doing, having these harsh conversations with men, there was no backlash, there was no uproar or anything. As a matter of fact, they don't even clip his clips from those earlier days and put those out. They only want to discuss the conversation that he's having with women who call in, who log in to have the conversation with him, and to criticize him for responding to what the women are saying to him. See, what a lot of women are not understanding is that these women that you see on Kevin Samuels' channel who call in with all kinds of craziness is very common. Men like myself and others run into these sisters all of the time. And so, when we would tell women that these sisters out here exist with this type of logic and attitude, y'all dismissed us. And so now he's putting it on Front Street, and all he's doing is allowing them to call into the show. So there's no manipulation, no nothing. And so now the world is seeing like, wow, this is something that we have to keep an eye on, because, our relationships. And so people, mischaracterize him, say he hates women, he hates black women. I can find you like 12 videos where he keeps repeating, I love women. That's why he don't even like dudes on the show when he's having some of these conversations. That's what he does. Now, Kevin Samuels is not an African-centered brother. So I don't even compare. I view him for what he is. I don't put him in the African-centered category, and I don't hold him to African-centered standards. An Umar Johnson, on the other hand, who claims to be an African and African-centered, I hold him to those standards that we have developed over the years in the Afrocentric, African-centered community. Kevin Samuels is not there. That's not his MO. So I don't hold him to those standards. You know, I don't know if he's read Amos Wilson's Blueprint for Black Power. I don't know if he knows Sheikh Anta Diop or not. That's besides the point. And so the problem is that people only want to listen to the message if it is in a package that they approve. And that's problematic. And this is why, as a computer scientist, I see why so many of us have problem with doing math in science. Because in math, they constantly change the way that the question and the formula looks. But it can be the same fundamental question. And so we have this inability to think abstractly in a very serious way and systematically. And so instead of getting at the kernel and the fundamental of the message, you know, you're harping on the presentation in the package. And that's our particular flaw. And so we'll get into more of that later. So again, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/asarimhotep. So now, when you see these conversations about high value men, you will often, you know, just like the quote unquote conscious community, the so-called manosphere is not a monolith either. And so there's variety. There's a population of individuals who have their, you know, own idea on the nature of the fundamental subject in which they're discussing. And so some of it is based on empirical data, some is just based on their personal experiences, yada, yada, yada. So when you go into the online quote unquote manosphere, you'll often hear or see these discussions of high value men based on certain fundamental or superficial, I should say, characteristics and or goals. And so that includes, for example, looks, money, status, or getting women, and more specifically, getting women to sleep with. And so, you know, a lot of people are turned off because that seems to be, in a lot of these other spaces, the nature of what a high value man represents. And so now I'm the kind of person that I try not to generalize. So when I speak on something, I give names, dates, and places. And so this is why for this video, we're focusing on Kevin Samuels, because Kevin Samuels is not about that. And people try to reduce his message to money. And that's not the case. And you can tell that they have never watched a full video of his content. And so what people got to understand is that what Kevin Samuels has brought to light, which other YouTubers and other men throughout time has brought to light. Now, this is an old meme, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen this meme floating around your Facebook and Instagram or whatnot. So we have this drawing here of what appears to be, you know, saying a beautiful sister who is walking off with the so-called thug, right? And over there in the corner, who she passes up, is this nerdy brother. Now, ironically, this brother kind of looked like Kevin Samuels, especially if you saw that high school picture of him that he got. You know, so this is obviously high school. We can see lockers and or whatnot. But the caption reads, "Don't worry, baby, he's just a nerd." And so he's just a nerd. And the nerd brother over here, who is a little bit awkward in things, he says, why do they always pick the thugs? Why do they always pick, people who look cool now, but don't see this brother as the long-term goal and investment? So the second part of the meme, years later, you see this brother here. He's laced out in his suit. He's holding the cash in his hand, and he has a little badge. I don't know if y'all can see it on your screens, but it says CEO. And so now, years later, the same sister, a single mother, like, hey, remember me? And he's like, beat it, chick. And then she comes back, why can't I find a good man, quote unquote. Now, there's a lot of brothers out here who understand and feel this meme. And so what is going on here? That same brother, if we go back, in his hand, he's holding a calculus book. He's holding a geology book. I can't tell what that says right here. It's kind of blurry, but, he's holding some thick books here, right? And so now he has developed a skill set. He done been through the grind. So now he's the CEO of a, top company or a company that he built. So she's trying to choose now. So now this brother is the kind of sister that she wants. So of course the thugs and the playboys and stuff like that, when she was younger, she of course she didn't went her path and find out that those aren't the dudes that you want to have a long-term relationship with and things of that nature. But now this brother is what all the sisters are looking for. And so if you understand, for example, this meme, you will understand the conversation that was being had on Kevin Samuel's show when these sisters were calling in saying that they want a man who is a quote unquote high value man who makes over $100,000 a year. And what Kevin Samuels would push back with is, well, what qualifies you to get a man who makes over $100,000 a year? What does the man want in a woman? Because, what they're realizing, what they're not realizing is that $100,000 a year earning man, $100,000 plus earning man, y'all didn't want him when he was on his grind. And so you see Kevin Samuels always pushing back on the sisters who dismissed the blue collar brother, trying to jump straight into the CEO's bedroom and things of this nature. And so we see something similar to this in real life. That is not a meme, right? So I know y'all seen this meme circulating around your social media. And so this is from a globalgrind.com interview from way back in 2009. So we know the sister on the right is Pepper or Sandra Denton from the group Salt and Pepper. It was real big in the late 80s and early 90s, women's group, right? And so around this time, Will Smith, better known as the Fresh Prince then, was on his come up, and he was trying to date Pepper from Salt and Pepper back in the day. And so this is what Pepper had to say when talking about Will Smith at the time. I thought Will was really cute and we would hang out a lot on the road. Pepper said of the Fresh Prince in her original quote. He liked to take care of me and never let me spend a dime. He was that kind of guy, real generous. I remember when they won their first award, he asked me to go out with him afterward. He was so excited. We were walking along the street getting ready to grab something to eat, and he just gave this homeless guy $100. I sometimes kick and she later in the article says, I sometimes kick myself when I think about what could have been. He was so nice to me, but I really wasn't feeling him. I guess I couldn't appreciate a nice guy like Will Smith. He wasn't thug enough. I was attracted to thugs and hoodlums. Will was too nice to me. So now where is she in her late 40s, 50s, still looking for a man in a relationship, when if she would have grabbed the nice guy who gave a homeless guy $100, who was on his rise up, maybe there wouldn't be a Jada, Pinkett entanglement or something to this nature. Or she would have had her own entanglement. Who knows? Just because you have money doesn't mean your character is going to be any different. But that's not the point. The point is when the brother was on his grind and he was just coming up, she wasn't feeling him. And this happens all the time. So now let's assume, for example, that Will Smith was single and he is the age that he is now, right? And he has the option to choose between a single mother, with a kid or more kids, that is his age, or he could choose younger with no kids and he can build a family from scratch. Who is he going to choose? And like people are upset that men of that caliber think that way, that they should just accept, and not understanding, all that is involved in it. It is a very complicated conversation, and there's enough blame on both sides that we understand that we all need healing and things of that nature. But it amazes me that, in this day and age, that this is still the conversation. And so, when it comes to this notion of being a high value man, again, Kevin Samuels, his whole platform is all about the leveling up of men. And brothers think that because they have read some Diop, that they have read some Amos Wilson, that they know who Fannie Lou Hamer is, that they can quote some Malcolm, that the rules of leveling up do not apply to them because they think it is Western mumbo jumbo. That's a bunch of BS. And that's what we're going to address here today. So when it comes to what it means to be a high value man, according to Brother Kevin Samuels, this is the criteria that he has laid out. He has laid out six fundamental characteristics and points of being a high value man. So one is money. And so he gave an actual value, dollar value. And that is $10,000 per month in Atlanta dollars, right? Because that's where he currently stays, in Atlanta. And so, people were wondering, like, what is this? This number, that's this astronomical number. And, what people are not understanding, first of all, we got to talk about what it means to be high value. High means you're on the upper extreme. So, of course, it's not saying you have no value if you don't make 10,000, but in terms of the value that, you have to have a lot of disposable and investment income. And so for him, it is $10,000 per month. This will bring you into the over $100,000 a year mark. And so you have some brothers be like, that's too high. And then you have some ambitious brothers say, bet, I got it. That's my goal. And, once you reach that goal, you want to go higher. You want to be able to do more. But that's the difference. You have to have a separating mark. And so we start off with 10K per month. And then number 2 is that you have to be making this over a length of time. That means you have to be able to demonstrate your ability to maintain this level of income for 3 to 5 years minimum. Why is that important? Because anybody can win the lottery. Anybody can inherit some wealth. But can you sustain? It shows your consistency, your ability to maintain a particular lifestyle for a while. Because everybody has good and bad seasons. And it doesn't mean that even if you do 3 to 5 years with this, that you couldn't lose it all. But if you have been making that much for at least 3 to 5 years consistently, $10,000 a month per month minimum, even if you were to lose that, you have already built the networks and you already have the know-how to make that money back. So it shows, your level of value that you bring to the public, because the public is willing to pay you to help solve their problems. So number 3 is group acceptance by other high value men. That means other people of prestige and power recognizes you as one of them. And this is very important for number 4, your network. So you have to be within a network of high value men first, and then your network amongst others. And so those in secret societies, in fraternal or sorority organizations, know the importance of a strong network. And this brother is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. Those of y'all that know I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. It's a network of other high value brothers. It's the same for the sisters in AKA and Delta Sigma Theta, SG Rho. It's a network of people who are striving to be the best version of themselves and to use that network to increase their net worth and to be able to better bring value to their community. Number 5 is visibility. Position and income are LinkedIn level. That means people know where you're getting your money from. People know what skill set it is. They know who to go to help them solve their problem. That's what business is for. You start a business because you want to solve a problem in the community or in the society at large. And people pay you to solve their problems. If I am hungry and I don't feel like cooking, or I don't have the resources at the house immediately to cook, I go to a restaurant and I pay the people at the restaurant to feed me. I have a problem. I'm hungry. You have food and you're cooking. I'll give you this for that over there. In exchange, you give me the food I eat. It's an even exchange. That's how business works. You have to solve a problem. So you have to be visible. How will people know to go to you to help solve the problem? The only people that ain't really visible is doing stuff is people who doing stuff illegally. Where are you getting this money from? You ain't trying to be seen or known. And last is your utility, your usefulness to the group and others. If other people in the network can't use you, if the community can't use you, you are of no value. You are valuable because you have the management, the resources, and the skill set to add value to other people. And we're going to get into what that word value means. And so when people are talking about a high value man in regards to Kevin Samuels, if they just stop at number one, talking about 10,000 per month in Atlanta dollars, you can tell that they have never watched any of his videos when he talks about what is a high value man. So this is the summation. So when we talk about a high value man, it includes all 6 of these. And there's other things, but this is his foundation for what it means to be a high value man. So I come a little later, and he has 6 criteria, I have 10. And so part of this discussion that we're having today is because I had a previous discussion about this some weeks ago. And so somebody had asked me, when it comes to these African points, which we'll get into, that, you know, where in Africa do I find these ideals at? So I want to answer in this conversation that as well. So the first thing for my criteria for an African-centered high value man is one of good character and integrity. That's the foundation before we get into money and any of that. Second, he's initiated into the ways and the values of one's ancestors. So keep in mind my criteria, and then watch a little later on when I'm citing, you know, the Africans on this topic. Number 3, understands his purpose in life and walks in his path. You'll also hear Kevin Samuels and other people in the manosphere say the same thing. It's about understanding your purpose and walking your path. Number 4, has a world African historical consciousness and is well learned. You won't find that for the most part in the manosphere, because of course they're not African centered. Number 5, knows the art of unveiling life's mysteries, a problem solver. Number 6, belongs to a network of other high value men. We're going to get into this whole network thing. Number 7, is afraid, even ashamed to die without winning a victory for African people. So he has a larger goal in mind in terms of an African-centered high value man. It's not just for himself or his immediate family. It's for the betterment of the community and the African struggle overall. Number 8, has mastered the art of accumulating resources to achieve higher goals. Now, I haven't put a dollar amount on that yet. So I'm just saying master the art of accumulating resources, because it's going to be impossible for you to win an African victory without money, without resources, without networks, without relationships. And so people think that, you know, again, you read some books that you're ready to go fight, you know, European white supremacy and Arab consciousness and all this other kind of stuff, and y'all just about to out here with your, you know, live your best African self. It's not going to happen. You know, you can hate capitalism all you want to, but if you're in the United States or you're in Europe and you're in the UK, you know, you live in a capitalist society. And you live in a capitalist society where you don't have your own army, you don't have your own banks, you can't print your own money, you don't have your own gold to back the money or silver, you don't have your own technologies, you don't own the land. And so there's an African proverb that says, when a snake comes at you from the forest or the bush, You throw at it whatever is in your hand. That means you use what is on you, what you got, to fight the battles until you can, put some distance between yourself and time where you can accumulate more resources and you can, have a bigger and stronger fight. But when a snake comes at you out of the forest, you throw at it whatever's in your hand. Number 9, master the art of being able to tower over life's 1001 challenges. A high value man is going to be a man who has failed numerous times. And through his failures, has developed strategies for towering over the challenges that initially brought him down. This is why it kills me when I hear women especially, and sorry, simping men, who say that, why should I listen to Kevin Samuels or a Steve Harvey when it comes to relationship and marriage advice? Because they have been divorced twice. Now, since on the, what's his name? Steve Harvey, he's been divorced twice, but I think he got married in like 2005. So he's been with the same woman since 2005. And so he's living in a successful marriage right now. There's some of y'all who've been married and divorced who didn't make it past 5 years. But these same African-centered folks will be quick to quote and big up ancient Egypt when they tell you that you can get advice from a poor woman at the grindstone. And we're talking about the maxims of Etymology, for those who don't know. Like, you consult anybody. It's the message, not the messenger. Lastly, knows how to recognize and celebrate life's beauties. In other words, this person is not a stiff, knows how to have fun, has style, and looks for the positive things in life. And that's one of the things that I can appreciate about Kevin Samuels, because he always points out that a lot of these women that call into his shows are making decisions based on a consciousness of lack and fear. And what he's saying is to move forward with a mindset that things are going to work and in an abundance. Now, if it was from a soft-spoken guru, a Buddhist or whatnot, y'all would accept it. But y'all can't get to that message because y'all worried about him agreeing with a woman who called herself, who ranked herself a 5 and at best a 6. And he responded back in agreement with her that she was average at best. Women are in their feelings. And I'm going to do a show on feelings because people use the word feelings out of context. Don't even know what a feeling is. People think that a feeling is just it's an emotion. No, it is not. It's a thought. It is a value system and a bias based on your experience that is used to interpret your emotions. That's a whole different program. And we're going to show why the Egyptian proverb reigns true, that feelings are good servants, but poor masters. That's another conversation for another day. So as I said, going into the second hour, that we're going to go into the Congo. So this concept of a high value man, I'm going to do a series. I'm going to do one using Yoruba culture. I'm going to use the ancient Egyptian culture. And I'm starting off here with the Congo culture as told to us by this good brother who's painted right here on the right, the late Dr. Kimbwandende Kiabonseki Fukiao. And this, and I brought this up in the last conversation, and I said I would elaborate. So now I'm going to elaborate. So what, in the manosphere they call a high value man, in the Congo, amongst the Congo people, they call an Nganga. And this is a traditional Nganga on the left. Now, he's a far cry in terms of the aesthetics from what you would see like a Kevin Samuel wears. And so I'm bringing this up to remind the audience to keep things in context. So this is traditional culture in the rural areas in the bush, right? Kevin Samuels, his message and everything is for a different type of environment, a corporate, a business field, international environment. And so it's going to be different in terms of the aesthetics, but fundamentally the same with some slight nuances and some added things between the two cultures. So this is not an equation in that sense. So keep in mind that these are separate concepts. But what is called a high value man in English is called an Nganga in Kikongo. And so an Nganga, according to Fukiao, well, this is one of his many definitions, is an initiated man in the African way of thinking, who is a specialist of perceiving the world's things. And this is another Nganga. A lot of times you will see these Nganga associated with religious roles and things. But an Nganga can be can have any role, not only in terms of the spiritual and ritual world, but in terms of policing the society, in terms of being the chief king or governor, or somebody who does scouting and things of this nature. And Nganga is a specialist and of high value to the community. Not everybody is Nganga, even though the expectation is for everyone to be Nganga. This is not the case. So much of what we're going to be discussing comes from this text here, African Cosmology of the Bantu Congo, Principles of Life and Living. And so Fukiao says here on page 129, understanding the worldview of a people is the cornerstone for understanding their culture. So before we can understand the role of an Nganga, we have to understand Congo cosmology. And unfortunately, we just don't have the time to go in depth about this. I've done several videos. You can go purchase the book, African Cosmology of the Bantu Congo, to get this work. Like this is a course unto itself. So I'm not going to go deep into this. But what you see here is a graphical representation of what they call in the Congo the Dikinga. And this Dikinga is symbolically representing the movement of the sun around the earth. And so it goes counterclockwise. So these circles that you see here represent the sun. And the sun is itself a symbol of the human being or any kind of life process, because this also represents time. And so it is broken up into 4 demarcations. And so right here is known as V1, V2, V3, V4. Vangama, Vaika, Vanga, and Vunda. But these stages are named Musoni, Kala, Tukula, and Luvimba. They're represented by different colors. The bottom is yellow or black, And for black for V2, V3 is red, and V4 is white. So yellow, black, red, and white. And so V1 is the conceptualization stage. This is man in the womb. And as he is being ready to be born, he is born at this stage, the Kala stage, the Vaika stage, V2. As he grows and matures and accumulates knowledge and skills, he comes to this stage, V3, which is supposed to be the height of his knowing and doing, where the one becomes an Nganga, a master, a knower, a doer. And then, of course, we all ideally grow old and eventually die, and we start the process all over again. But the aim is to become this Nganga, this master at this stage of the process. So he informs us, and I'll just be reading. These are just scans of the text. And so that word tukula comes from the word kula, which means to grow in the way of making one's own history, to develop, to mature until reaching the position of leadership and to be able to exercise it. Being in the king or leader space is to be in the position of authority and power. So when we go back here, this is the position graphically, symbolically, in the Congo way of thought for being a king, for being a leader, for being a person of power. Because when you have matured and gone to this stage, you have leveled up in the society, that you have accumulated enough power to make change and to make history. Those people, those leaders, those kings, those chiefs, those power holders in the Congo society, they call Nganga. And if you're a male, you would be a high value man. If you're a woman in this, you would be a high value woman. But this is what it means. For an Nganga, this is a high value man. So he's telling you what is the expectation and what is the association. It deals with having a certain level of maturity in wisdom, in wealth, in influence in the society. Nganga. The Kala, by the process of growth and maturation, becomes Tukula, the red or redness, which is the symbol of mature leadership within the community. It is also the step of the man's deeds. The collective maturation, its leadership through the process of collective growths, allows for social and community development, etc., etc. So I forgot what page this is, but I'm kind of going in order. Let me go back. Let me see. The Tukula position occupies the center of the cone of power and leadership, which I may also call the V of life. So we go back to this V. You see these demarcations. So there's a demarcation here. There's a vertical line here, and there's a horizontal line here. But there's also this cross that you see in the center. And so when he's talking about the V, he's talking about, because if you see, it looks like a V. And, when you outline it here. And so in this V position, here is the position of power and leadership and maturity. So let's go back. So to grow, to mature, Kula, is to be ready to enter this powerful zone of the V of life. It is very important to understand also that to enter the V of life, the zone, is to stand vertically like a master, an Nganga, between the earth and the sky, and between the upper world and the lower world. The Egyptian Ankh symbol itself is nothing else but a symbol of a master, an Nganga, standing vertically inside the V of his community life as a priest or a leader. And so we don't use the language priest in modern times unless it's associated with a religious leader. But your priest in modern times would be any business mogul, any judge, for example, any like a president of a university, a to some extent, like generals in the military and things of that nature. These would be your priest, because these are people who are at the top of their fields and their positions, who have influence and can control a body of people, who have say so in whether people eat or not. And so this is what we mean by a priest. So again, in traditional society, it's going to be a little different, but they were the same thing. So the priests were people who were scout, who managed the fields. Where your top farmers were ritual specialists. It went beyond simply worshiping gods and doing, pouring libations and stuff. That's a priest, but that's not a priest. A priest holds a position in society for when the community needs help. That's the leader. That's the person we go to get our needs met. So whether you're talking about somebody who works in government, they're a priest. So I'll continue to read. I'm at the bottom now. A man that grows up in this process of making history, and he enters the rank of the ancestors, I mean, he dies, those well-minded people who grew up before him, it's an incomplete sentence, but it is what it is. On the contrary, what he's saying here is that an Nganga who has reached this level basically enters a special class of ancestors. And the people who entered this special class of ancestors are the ones who lived and added value to the community and made history. That's why he says here, a man that grows up is in the process of making history. It's about making history. It's about doing things that others, were not necessarily able to accomplish. You left your mark. Your name was worthy to be remembered. These are the African principles. Now, on the contrary, a man that does not grow up. So an Nganga is a mature person, a person who's been initiated into the wisdom of their ancestors. But everyone isn't initiated. And in certain African communities, if you're not initiated, you're still a child. So on the contrary, a man that does not grow up, the one who deviates and is not well-minded, is not in the process of making history. He enters the rank of the Nkuyu, the bad ancestors, while living the deviators, the regressive, and the stunted ancestors. So there's there's several classes of ancestors. And those people who haven't matured, who haven't been on their purpose, who haven't left their mark on the society or whatnot, these are the Nkuyu, the badasses, the stunted ones. They're not in that class. They're not in that fraternity of the Orisha, for example. And so that's a totally different conversation that we'll get into at some other time. So you see this graphic on page 28, again, of the Nganga man at the top inside the V. And so this representation, and they got the word Unk in Kikongo, it's Nkwa. Another variant of it is Zingu. But Nkwa, that's what this is, Nkwa. That's what a word for man, a fire starter, is. You have to read the book. It's deep. And so, let me see. I can skip this one. Okay. So again, we're talking about this V. I don't have time to really get deep into the cosmology. That's a different thing. So if something doesn't register immediately, get the book. All right. So the V has a standing ground, the untouchable dark matter that constitutes the printing darkroom of realities. From this darkroom, pictures and ideas become realities in human minds, which channel them into transformation processes that lead them to tangible realities. The V is the core to all circles inside which the V stands. Remember the V's that you see in the original diagram. These V's are individual or collective, material or immaterial, biological or ideological. Inside the community circles, V stands the master, the Nganga, the teacher, the priest, as a power figure. He keeps bringing up this word power. We're going to see that the word power and the word value are related. This power figure, the leader, the priest, the Nganga, who stands powerfully at the center of the community issues, of the community issues, became the Egyptian Ankh or symbol of life, which we saw from another page. So we can go back to that. So this man, this Nganga, is standing in, tall as a power figure within the community. Notice here that in traditional Congo society, to become a specialist was something required of all its members and was an expression of professional requirement in social life. So we have to do these, again, context is different in terms of, the Congo and the rural life. And then, of course, how that manifests itself in a society, in a city like Atlanta or New York or Houston, Texas, or whatnot. It's about professional life. And so it doesn't matter if it's in the rural community or in the in the Western large metropolis type environment. You are expected to become a specialist in Nganga. And this is supposed to express itself and show itself and manifest itself amongst your professional career and social life. In Congo society, everyone is a free individual and a doer specialist. Muna Congo, and I'm not going to read that. A Mukongo was accepted as such as an Nganga, and these are actually my lines and notes that you'll see, in the text. Again, I scanned it from my book, so if the lines are all crooked and stuff, that's just because I have a crooked hand. So it is what it is. A Mukongo, that means a Congo person, was accepted as such as an Nganga in his community if he only could be a doer of something for the well-being of the community. And so we're going to show, keep in mind all of these different things, take notes. So he had to be a doer for the well-being of the community. To have a mitia, this Nzaya in Suke, this or Nzayaku and Seki upper world is based in the real life. I don't think I scanned the next part, but this is very important when we're talking about the third V. Remember, V3 is called Vanga, and it's derived from the archaic word Ganga, to perform, to do. These are doers, performers, people of action. And in order for you to be able to do, you have to have power. That's what the word power means. The word power means the ability to do, to perform, which is why resources and money matters. Because you can't fulfill your purpose to the maximum without resources. Resources such as money helps you to fulfill your purpose and to advance the community and or sustain the community and the society. This V, the most crucial in life, represents the stage of creativity and the deeds or to kula stage of the root verb kula, meaning to mature or master. So this is the stage in life where you become the master, and your influence helps to shape the direction of society in the near future. And so here's that stage again, just in case you missed it the first time. So for those of you who see my, the logo for this program that we're on right now, the Mbongi, what do you see in the center? You see the Nganga standing in his V, standing in a community V, which is why Umuntu, Ngamuntu, Ngabantu. A human is a person because of other people. This is where your networks and stuff come in. Nothing is done half-assed around here. I don't make comments just to make comments. Everything is well researched. Everything means something. We continue talking about the V3 and the Inqua symbol. It is the symbol of the stage that is the most aspired to in the physical world. Inventions, great works of art, etc., are accomplished while one is passing through this zone of life. At this point, one becomes an Nganga, a high-value man, a master, a doer, a specialist in the community of doers. In a what? A community of doers. So the stuff that Kevin Samuels talks about in terms of being a high-value man and being in the network of other high-value men is something that is basic, that every society should have in terms of its expectations. I continue. In Congo society, if you don't do, you don't eat. That's basic. The Vanga function, meaning the V3, is accomplished by the Kula grow action, the learning to stand vertically inside one's V. Now, the Masons, they stand on their square. The Nganga, they stand in their V. The V, the third, is a reverse pyramid. It occupies the position of verticality, the direction of God's power and leadership. I'm going to read that again. Talking about that third V, that Vanga, that's related to Nganga, that it occupies the position of verticality, the direction of God's power and leadership. And Nganga is God body. This is our quote unquote 5% before the 5% even existed. And Nganga is a God in the community. That's what a high value is. It's a person of power and leadership. People, institutions, societies, and nations as well enter and exist in this zone successfully, only if they stand on their own 2 feet. One enters and stands up inside this V to become a doer, a master, an Nganga to oneself first, before becoming an Nganga to the community. This is the stuff that we skip over. We like to go over and see the graphs and all of this. Like, no. In Congo tradition, the expectation was for you to be a God, a leader in the community, a power holder and figure, a professional, a master, a person of skill, a person of wealth. And anybody saying differently don't know Africa. I can do this all day. So let's get back to Kevin Samuels real quick. Money, length of time, group acceptance by other high value men, network. Notice in this network it says of high value men first, then to others. And here it's worded a little differently. To, you become a doer master to oneself before becoming Nganga to the community. We got to keep these things in mind here. And so what I wanted to touch on here was this, what's in the green, the group acceptance, of course, by other high value men, and the visibility. What does it mean to be visible? When an Nganga, for example, goes into the community, they didn't have LinkedIn back in the day. What they had were Nkondi figures. These Nkondi figures, and I'm going to read from Fukiao, the Nkondi is like a diploma given to Nganga, a specialist who deals with social issues. He can be seen as a therapist who is invited in a village, in the community circle to deal with any issue that is a problem. That means he's accumulated enough wisdom that people trust his judgment when coming to evaluate a situation and to help them solve their problems. Again, in Nganga, a high value man is a problem solver. So before they start discussing the matter, he has to put before him his Nkondi to assure the village that he is qualified to discuss the Mambu. The word Mambu is what became Mambo Jumbo in the West. Without this object, the community won't accept him as trained or qualified. So when someone was to come and see this in the house, these are made by other Ngangas. The Nganga community, the other high value men, recognize them as such. He belongs to a network of other Nganga. So people know what they do. They can go to this person to help solve the problem. So we're going to go to another point of his, utility, useful to the group and others. So this is, again, like people skip these parts of his videos because he's always talking about being useful, his skills, their wealth and networks being able to be used to add value, not only to the network itself, but to society at large. And this is where, when he has these discussions about, like the high value men and how they are able to exercise their options when it comes to the women that they deal with and dealing with multiple women, and why some women, will have to accept the fact that this individual is not only for themselves, but for the larger society as a whole. But that's a different discussion. I want to make sure that that's in the right context before people start getting in their feelings and misquoting and misunderstanding what is actually being said here. So we'll have that discussion sometime in the future. But utility, all you read is how the Nganga, the high value man in the Congo society, was useful to the group and the society as a whole. Because it's about value. And so we're going to get into this word power, because we kept seeing this word power come up in Fukiao's work in association with the Nganga. So the definition or the etymology of power from Etym Online Again, as I stated earlier, has to deal with ability, the ability to act or do, strength, vigor, might, especially in battle. We'll get to that later. Efficacy, control, mastery, lordship, dominion, ability or right to command or control, legal power or authority, authorization, military force, and army. So when you have power, you have the ability to do or act. Why is money power? Because money allows for you to do and act in a certain way. And I don't mean in terms of your personal behavior per se. I'm talking about your ability to get things done. Because if I have resources, I can pay people to do things. They respect me because I pay them and I empower them. Me having money allows me to empower others by paying them. This is how we build an economy. You're going to have those that have money to keep it circulating in the group. So we keep talking about wanting to build, Black Wall Street and businesses and stuff like this. How are you going to get there? Who's going to be the people to hire your teenager when they're coming looking for their first job or whatnot? What businesses, if we're experiencing all this racism and things in white corporate America, who are we going to go to get hired to be able to live? It's going to take us to become these people of prestige and power, to build the kind of institutions and businesses that we can hire our own people. So if a sister, on her blog, says something about racism, white supremacy, and their people at the job says, we don't like that kind of rhetoric, we're going to have to let you go. We should be able to be like, sis, come here. How much were you getting paid? We'll match it or more. You can only do that if you have these aspirations here in this land. You have to be wanting power. That's what, if you listen to Kevin Samuels, he's always talking about developing Black men to be able to compete with anybody on the world stage, which is why his channel is dedicated to leveling up so we can compete. But you get into these other circles, they always talk about white supremacy and the white man like he's a god, that he's undefeatable. Just sorry. But he's, on the other hand, like, straight talk. This is what we need to do to make these things happen. Value. The etymology of the word value. Value meaning price equal to intrinsic worth of a thing. In the late 14th century, the degree to which something is useful or estimatable or estimable, from the Old French value, which worth, price, moral worth, standing, reputation. It comes from Latin, valere, meaning to be what? Strong. To be well, to be of value, to be of worth. It has to deal with power. Something is more valuable the more powerful it is, meaning its ability to make change, to facilitate the growth in a particular type of direction. Value has to deal with strength. So I add value to you if I empower you. I can empower you with words or, whatnot, but I really empower you when I give you money to be able to do things. So you empower my company by giving us the funds. Of course, we provide you with the service or the product that we create. But it's this exchange that empowers. So you're never going to develop the Black community, the Black economic sphere, unless you understand power and value, because your job is to add value to others. You become more valuable to the community the more value you add to it, the more you empower others. That's what this whole thing is about. That's what an Nganga is. So even when it comes to this word for worth, it ultimately comes from a Proto-Indo-European root meaning to turn or to bend. That ultimately implies power, the ability to change a circumstance, to change the dynamics, the way that things are. That's how you know if something is worthy. Everything has to deal with this ability to do or to make change and progress. And so the less power you have, the less is your ability to make change. So, one of the conversations, of course, that I've had is to really tackle this concept, especially for the men. I'm talking to the men, to develop this high value concept and to cover it with the fundamental understandings and purpose of an African centered worldview. But there's nothing in Kevin Samuel's discussion that is anti-African in any way. Now, you may have an issue with, his preference for the size of a woman. That's his personal preference. And so, and one of the reasons why he even does that is to show how women look when they put their criteria out there that the man has to be 6'3", 6'4", certain amount of certain type of build and have and make 100,000, saying plus. That's what women will say. But they'll get upset if a man says he doesn't want a woman who's overweight, who is fit, who is feminine. Again, that's another discussion. I want to make sure if we have that, it's in a particular type of context. And so, another in the Chiluba, for them, the high value man is called Nkole or Ngole, which means an eminent or powerful man. Again, like Nganga, it is also a word associated with God. Nkole, it is a God. When you talk about a high value man, it's a God. A God simply is an entity that has the power or the ability to do or to cause change. The most powerful gods are the ones that can do the most. And these are the symbols that you see here. If any of you have any of my works, like Aluja Volume 2, you already know that I've done the comparison. And this Nkole is the Chiluba cognate for the word Netcher, which is represented by this symbol, or this symbol. And there's another symbol in the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic script. And so it is also a variant of the word her, which becomes Heru. They're two dialectical different variations of the same exact word. So when you're talking about a Netcher, you're talking about an eminent or powerful man or spirit. A variant of this Nkole is Nkele, an erudite, learned man, educated, civilized, or noble. In a different vein, in a different word, Mukulu, a chief, a director, president, head. These are all titles for high value men in Congo and ancient Egyptian. And so, people, want to be the poor righteous teachers. Even in the biblical tradition, they understood something. And so a lot of us should be familiar with this verse, Ecclesiasticus 10 and 19. And so in my Hebrew Israelite read voice, now I ain't going to even do that. I'm going to be too loud. I got neighbors. But, a feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. They understood the role of wealth in society. And of course you can get corrupt, with money and wealth. That's not the issue. Money is neutral. And this is a clip. Hopefully you can hear it. So I'm a turn now, and y'all let me know if y'all can hear. So I did some manipulations, and hopefully you should be able to hear from the computer now. But if you can't hear it, just let me know. But if you can hear it, let me know as well. So this is Muhammad Ali on why the accumulation of wealth is important for his mission at the time, especially when he was with the Nation of Islam.
What else have you got? Read some more. You ain't got nothing else on there? Well, we said we gonna see. I mean, you ain't gonna see it today. Or when you gonna catch
It's always interesting watching a playback of one of these programs to see what happens, in the sense of how people come over.
We got this thing taped.
You want another quote so you can sort of start shouting at me?
Yeah, I want. Lay another platform.
Right, fine. There's no trap at all. This is again points out the essential contradiction.
This will be the first
contradiction. Yeah. There is a contradiction, right?
I know that.
He preaches against materialism, but fills his garage with a Rolls Royce, a new Cadillac, a new Lincoln, a new camper,
two Rolls Royces. Now, I'll tell you another thing. Now, I wish he was here, the man who wrote it. Well, I preach against material things. Yes. When have I ever preached anything against material? I don't preach against material things. I teach our people and our religion that heaven is not on earth. I say heaven is not up in the sky. I mean, heaven is on earth. Hell is not underground. Hell is on earth. The white man has told you heaven is in the sky and hell is underground, and he takes everything in the middle. He's got all the factories, all the hotels, all the motels, all the electric, the land. I say heaven is a good condition on earth. This is what we preach. I don't preach this material thing. And another reason I have material things, not because I want them, not because I see a watch today I want to buy. Hilton Hotel, watch for $6,000. I'm getting a watch for a reason. I have my Rolls Royces for a reason. I have the things I buy for a reason. Black people in America, I'm ready for you. Black people in America do not respect, even the world, people, the average man out here. Why am I on your show? I'm George Foreman. Why can I get up and talk so bold on TV? Because I'm the heavyweight champion? Well, I was just another nigga out there working. I washing dishes, and my opinion don't mean a damn thing. I know that. Right. But let me tell you another. Why do I buy pretty cars? Because all of the educated people, we're trying to convert to the Islamic faith. The thing is, you all don't have nothing. Elijah Muhammad Ali used to have a little old house, a real old house, trying to be humble, and all the Negro preachers of Christianity will say to their followers, how can Elijah Muhammad be from God? He lives on a shack. Shouldn't God be able to bless him with a nice home? He wanted to be humble. He could have had a big home. He drove a little old car in his younger days trying to be humble. But they think you don't have nothing. People don't respect you when you look like you don't have no money. So I got to buy diamonds. I got to be the heavyweight champion. I got to have a Rolls Royce. So when I pull up to that other black man with a Rolls Royce, hey, my brother, come on down to the Muslim temple today. I want you to hear the sermon of Allah. Well, it was a pretty car. Where that watch come from? Oh, my man. Come on over. And they listen. You got to have something. Most people will join a church. You get a Catholic church, any kind of church, and build a church and put gold seats in it, put diamond carved speakers on the wall, put carpet in that church, and watch how many followers you will have in your church. Let another man preach a better word of God. Let him have a little house with a storefront, and he won't have no followers. People are in this world, we love wealth. They respect people with money. So I have to buy these things, line them up. I'm fixing up a home in Chicago, English-style house, 14 bedrooms, 60 years old. It will cost $1 million to build. I'll pay $100 for it. I'm putting all new furniture from Beirut, Lebanon. It's going to be a plus house. I'm never home. But when I invite people over to talk to me, and they ding, punch the bell, dong, 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 dong. And my chauffeur coming to, oh, yes, Mr. Ali, be out in 20 minutes. I have to sit upstairs for 30 minutes and make him wait so he'll appreciate me. I don't run the door.
Now end it right there. And so what he was saying in the video, and I'm not sure what the volume level is, so I only got one response saying that they could hear it, is that, when you're trying to bring a message out there, people seem to respect more when you have something, when you have wealth and prestige, because they know that you've had to go through a path, a way to get there. And so not saying that what they say is going to be right and exact, but that having the wealth, having the prestige, having the power opens the door automatically, opens up the minds and the hearts and ears of the people so that when you say something, they'll listen. And so as he was saying in the interview, that he could be saying something, giving them a word that it could be right and exact, but the people be like, well, what is that? You know, you weren't able to accumulate or do anything in life because you don't have nothing. That's what he's saying. And that's what they say a lot to a lot of Afrocentric folks. That, you know, you have these rebel rousers, you know, who know all of Marcus Garvey and can quote Black Panther, all this. And I'm talking about the Black Panther, it's not the movie, the Black Panther or the comic book. That these individuals, they don't have anything. Now, keep in mind, I understand the context. You know, we're living in the United States. And so when these groups tried to come up, you had governmental and local pressures to quell those movements. We understand that. But understand where we are today, 2021. Your ancestors were brought over here and enslaved, made to work for nothing. Then your ancestors fought for their own freedom in various different ways, whether it was resistance on the plantations themselves, whether it was in the Civil, War or the Revolutionary War, whether it was in the Jim Crow era or the Civil Rights movement of the 50s, 60s, and the Black Power movement in the 70s, etc. We're always working towards our elders and ancestors in the best way that they could. When the snake came at them at the forest, they threw at it whatever was in their hand. And so now we've come to a point where all the work that they were doing has allowed us in this time and space for some of us to gain power to bring us to the next step. And so we are at a stage now where we have to start thinking like Dr. Amos Wilson in the 90s when he wrote Blueprint for Black Power, to accumulate wealth and power, and especially for our men to go out here and work and create these institutions and businesses to be able to hire our own people. Because when we're able to do that, we can take our people from outside of from these other businesses where they have to be subjugated to the racism and white supremacy of Europeans directly, where we can build our own thing. And this requires you to get off of your high horse and to do what needs to be done. And so I have here on the screen the word ashe. So you hear a lot of us in the community say the word ashe, or, ashe, if you want to get, technical. But the word itself means a coming to pass. It is a noun, law, a command, authority, commandment, enjoyment, imposition, power, precept, discipline, instruction, canon, binding, document, virtue, effect, consequence, imprecation. It has to deal with power, the ability to do something. It comes from the root she, which means to do, to act. So when a Yoruba woman is looking for a Yoruba man, she's looking for a man with ashe, with power, with command, with imprecation, with effect. And so we got to start moving differently as men. And some of us who have those ambitions to do great things, you're going to have to understand what it means to be a high value man and to be able to walk in this world as such. So you're going to have to put in that work. You're going to have to do those things that a lot of people are not comfortable doing. It is what it is. And so here are a few, African proverbs on wealth. Now you can also find negative proverbs about wealth, but these are more positive or more the kind that make you think. So, this is a Sakan proverb. If a place is dark and then money is scattered there, it becomes light. Like money becomes light in a dark place. Money requires addition, not reduction. If you become rich, sleep with your door shut, because people are always trying to get your wealth. The Asante culture. When you are rich, you are hated. When you are poor, you are called a bad person. Baganda. Relations love each other as long as both parties are rich. The Bairu. I love this proverb. Look for land instead of food. It's their version of, give a man a fish and he eats for a day. Teach him how to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. Look for land, resources. You won't have to worry about food. In Chinyaja, wealth gets added on to other wealth, which is why people like wealthy people or people striving to be wealthy to gain power and prestige, they hang in the same circles. Because wealth gets added onto other wealth. Hassa, first to market is not making profit. One day of prosperity is better than a year of poverty. Ovombo, if you do not collect riches, you are not considered human. This is an Ovombo proverb. He who gets rich alone does not like another family to get rich. So if we have a community, a body of doers who are looking to get the bag, but who also have a greater goal in mind, not only for their family, but for, the community as well. And this is what trips me. We were talking about generational wealth. One of the generations have to start getting the wealth in order to pass it on from generation to generation. It starts with you. A hunter does not get rich with his companion's game. Exactly. And you'll hear Kevin Samuels also talk about this, that you will never get rich working for somebody else. You may get a high salary, but you won't get rich working from somebody else. You're going to have to build your own. And as men, we are natural risk takers. That's what we're here to do, to take that risk to help build that generational wealth. Lastly, Yoruba, lack of money is not a disease. It is a lack of occupation that is the disaster. One does not live fashionably on borrowed money. It's all about doing for self, getting our own. And so this is a challenge to everyone. I was going to go into the superhighway, the African superhighway of wisdom, but I'll pause that. If I need to go there, I'll go there later. But this speaks to the whole network thing. And so I want to kind of pause there and, get some questions in. And I want to see where you guys' heads are at. And let me see. So there's a lot of comments. Wasn't able to read them all. And I want to thank those who have donated and gave a super chat. Peace and blessings. Thank you to all of you. And so if there are any questions, if somebody wants to join the panel and give their insight, negative or positive, let me get the invite link. So I'm going to put it to join panel. Boom. So, well, I don't know if it's going to show up on my Harold Johnson page. That one's been acting up. But for those who are on Facebook and want to join, go to my asarimhotep.com page and find the live, and you'll see the link to join the panel if you want to ask a question, give a comment, or whatever. So the link I just put in the chat. And also, to get a kind of a good idea of what Kevin Samuels is about, I put in the description a link to a conversation that he was having in 2 years ago on his channel. And he talks about, you know, the issues, the path in the development that he had gone through to even get to that point. So people think that, you know, Kevin Samuels just came out of nowhere. He didn't. He's been doing this for a while. And on the link below, it's going to talk about ranking systems and men ranking each other. And so, and how would you rank yourself in society? Are you the best version of yourself? Are you where you think you need to be? Are you doing what you came here to do at the maximum level? And if not, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice to make it happen? And that's the conversation he is having. And this is 2 years ago. So he talks about him, you know, losing his job, getting divorced, you know, waiting tables, you know, all this other kind of stuff. And then what it took for him to get on this path in which you see, you know, now. And so, you know, I understood it completely. There's a time I've been homeless, you know, been evicted, had a car repossessed, a whole bunch of, you know, saying crazy stuff that has happened. And so I understand and I appreciate those people who go through those different things and have found their way to find their niche and to make history, to become an Nganga, you know, in the society itself. And so let me see what it's saying. Conan Lee, our good brother out of the UK, are you going to give the Dr. Umar perspective and where he may be wrong? I've seen a clip of some of his comments. I just don't take Dr. Umar Johnson seriously anymore for a number of reasons. So, and I can tell you that from the original Kevin Samuels clip, like people take his comment out of context. It was a sister who called in to the show talking about the way that he speaks, because if you know Kevin Samuels, he speaks very directly, and when he was the way that he speaks, it can come off as harsh to a lot of women because they're not used to speaking to each other that way. Us men, we speak to each other like this all the time. It's very direct. It's like, you know, we don't have time to sugarcoat and beat around the bush. It's just, it is what it is. And so, and because he doesn't cater or pander or try to soften things up, the sister on the call said, you know, why don't you speak more like Umar? And he's like, speak like Umar, the same brother who this, and this, and this, and this. And so that's where the beef started, you know, but it wasn't his, like he didn't consciously just bring him into the conversation. It's within the context of somebody who tells you, you know, hey, you know, you Nubian black queen sister and all this other kind of stuff. And then, you know, him, of course, pointing out the obvious fraud of that, you know, because you have a lot of dudes who come into these circles speaking to these women only trying to get in their pants, but coming at it from an angle in which they are seemingly trying to help them, trying to better them, so to speak, on give them direction and stuff like that. So the ulterior motive is just to get in their pants, and that's not what Kevin's saying is about. You'll know from the beginning that that's what he wants to do. He'll tell you, I'm trying to get in your pants. This is what I have to, let's work this out. And so one of the things that he talks about is men being straight up about who they are and what they want. And that you will be surprised at what certain women will go for if you're just honest with them directly. So, Umar Johnson is not in that category. And so we've seen the whole stripper scandal and then some other things. And, I can't recall him speaking and giving details about that. But because, there's three sides to every story. There's her side, there's his side, and then there's the truth. And so, I give him that because we want to hear his side of the story on these things. And then, we can kind of compare evidences and come to our own conclusions. But so from my understanding, so I don't have the full background, so I don't want to make a definitive statement on it. But from what I understand, that's the nature of the context. Let me see here. Do you have any recommendations for self-development and essential skills needed to achieve this status? Yes. And I think I'm going to put a reading list and a resource list together. And what a lot of us is going to have to realize is that a lot of this is not going to come from an African-centered package. It's not going to come from an African-centered perspective. You're going to probably have to read or listen to some people who are Christians or Muslims in the Nation of Islam and other areas. Forget the messenger, get the message. So it just depends on what you want to do. You take what is useful, you eat the meat and you spit out the bones. And so hopefully we have matured and grown to the point where we can discern those things. So I'm definitely going to put something together. But for me, the first place always is Blueprint for Black Power. But that's a 900-page book, and that's if you're serious about the long-term, building of African people. But it's that type of work. And Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson. There's another book that just was released. I haven't gotten it yet, so I can't put my stamp of approval on it, but I'm interested in getting it. It's called GOAT. Matter of fact, let me find it on Amazon.com. It's here it goes. It was the last thing that I viewed. So GOAT. Let me stop sharing the screen. Let me reshare my screen. Chrome tab. There we go. So this book here, GOAT, The Gospel of Afronomics Theology, a 21st Century Blueprint for Black Economic Power. And you can look at some of the book inside. This came out in February of this year. And, you can tell this brother used to be a 5%er or something like this because he uses the language. But again, eat the meat, spit out the bones. And then some things you're just going to have to read that are more along the lines of, how should I say, of whatever field it is. So like, I'm stepping into doing real estate. So besides, because I'm back in school now. Matter of fact, after we finish this show, I got to read for my operations systems and prepare for this week's test and stuff like this nature. I'm back in school for computer science, but I'm also, again, I started my publishing company, but I'm also getting into real estate and using real estate as one of those vehicles, to build on some other plans. that I have, in the future. So for something like that, you're probably not going to find any Afrocentric texts on real estate, especially since in traditional African society, you can't own land and things of that nature. And so this whole notion of owning land and selling land and trading and doing all this other kind of stuff, that's not the nature of many traditional African societies. But if you're here in the United States, you need to start reading some, if you're looking to get into real estate, get into some real estate books, or paying for, coaching or whatnot from somebody who already does real estate. And that's something that a lot of us is really going to have to. And I know it's kind of hard to find people that you can trust, but you're going to have to do your due diligence and, pay people to consult with who are doing what it is that you want to do, and allow them to give you the steps, what they've taken, their mistakes, what forms you're going to need to get, what tax, structure is best for, starting out and what you're doing, whatever. It really just depends. So thank you to Lion Times Baby for the donation. Well needed lesson. Appreciate your comment. We definitely need more instruction on being practical, turning the metaphysical or abstract into applied science. Most of what you read that is so-called metaphysical and abstract in reality had practical applications. And, I want to have, I'm going to invite Professor James Smalls on the program, and hopefully we can have this conversation, because as he would say, and which I am able to confirm scholastically, that, spirituality is reality. That's all it is. It's about accumulating resources and being able to use the resources to make effective change in your life and in your community and in your family. And so it's all earth-based. It's very little, to do with outer space and the spirit world. They're connected in the African worldview, but it's all about doing stuff here. That's why, like when you saw the Muhammad Ali clip, he was stressing this notion that heaven is not some by and by. You have your heaven on earth, and you got to work for it. And so if you want to affect change, you have to be the person. You have to develop into a person of high integrity and of power and wealth. If you're a person of integrity and of power and wealth, you can shape the community in ways that others can't. And that's the movement that we should have been on, but we need to be more consciously on in the future, or from now until then. Let me see. He says, Bantu history, I am totally off with the observation that Kevin Samuel has got quite similar talking points as Jason Black. I don't know if you're responding to somebody else. I don't know who Jason Black is. He says, yep, honesty is the biggest part. Yeah, it's integrity. Like if you have integrity, that's why he's different than as far as dealing with the women as Umar Johnson, because from the standpoint of, again, an Umar Johnson, the appearance is that he's trying to use the African culture and stuff to this nature to appeal and get into women's pants. And I'm not saying that that's what he does, but that's what a lot of us have been charged with. And, but there's a lot of people that do that, trying to get into polygamous relationships. And I'm down for polygamy and open relationships and all of that. But they're not upfront with them. And so if you are upfront with a sister, you just don't know. If you are a person that's standing in your V, right, in your power, and you are a person of integrity, you'd be surprised at what a sister would be down with. And this is from personal experience. You'd be surprised. Let me see here. Appreciate it. I don't know about Tommy Sotomayor. I don't see any other questions. See, Sister Tamika says she likes a straight up man. Absolutely beautiful. Deconstruction. Coach Bilal, peace and blessings to you. And peace and blessings again, everyone. If there was anything earlier, I would have to go back and see. Again, I appreciate everyone and your commentary. And I may do a separate just for the Patreon folks. I'll do that last part of the presentation just for the Patreon folks, and to show the African concept of the networking and how networking is important to wealth building and to becoming that high value person. And so let me see. Conan Lee, can I ask if Kevin Samuel's recommendation of honesty not coming from a position of disingenuousness? Can I ask is Kevin Samuel's Can I ask if Kevin Samuel's recommendation of honesty, I would assume, is not coming from a position of disingenuousness? I can't answer that. You would have to answer or ask Kevin Samuels. And so, and I'm not saying that, I agree with everything, but I don't agree with everything for anybody. And you don't really necessarily have to put that qualifier. But, what is true that he says is true. And people try to diminish it and make it seem as if, like if he has a flaw in this other area, that it somehow affects the truth in this conversation that he's having over here. And that's the problem with us. They don't know how to separate and to know when something is connected and when something is not. And so when he's talking about this over here, it may be true. If he's talking about this over here, it may not be all the way accurate. He may not have the latest statistics or something to this nature, but it's, and he may just be totally wrong over here. But him being totally wrong over here doesn't make him totally wrong over here, which we know is right and exact. And this is what a lot of people try to do to discredit someone like a Kevin Samuels or anybody, on the net. And so it's, this is one thing we always got to understand. Everyone has their tribe. Like I have my tribe. And so my tribe rocks with me on this channel. And, it doesn't take away or diminish anybody else's. Like I only appeal to a certain demographic, the way that I speak in my country, I'm saying West Philly South. This is, I understand that I have a niche, and how I do things and how I speak and the subjects that I choose to pick and my beliefs and all of this may not rock for everyone, but there's a tribe for everyone. So Kevin Samuels has his tribe. Fresh and Fit, they have their tribe. Brother Unk and the Pseudo Killers, they have their tribe. Kofi and the Mossy Warriors and all of it, they have their tribe. Like everyone has, their thing. What people just have to respect and understand is that just because something isn't for you doesn't mean that it shouldn't be for anyone else. And so he has his lane. Let him be in his lane. Let him live his life. And if it doesn't appeal to you, it just doesn't appeal to you. That's when it that's just a fact of life. It just is what it is. Let me say, yeah, facts. If you stand on your own square, you would be surprised. Exactly, with the sisters. Let me see, not doing that. I may wish to sleep with every woman I meet, but me being open and honest is not good because it is based on some form of exploitation. If you follow, again, you have to be a person of character, and so this is one thing that, again, he also points out that if you are a high value man, you don't have time to be trying to sleep with every woman. Most women are headaches in this when you're talking about this intimate space, and you will bring down your brand. Matter of fact, in certain circles, you going around sleeping with a lot of women is not seen as a good thing, especially if you have a woman and a main sister who you're not dealing with saying correctly. Like if you have or if you are walking in your purpose, you just don't have time to try to cultivate all these relationships with all these different women. That's just not how it's done. Now, they may exercise their options every now and then, but just like with the case of Bill Gates. So Bill Gates has been married, is once the richest man in the world, with I forgot how many, I don't know, I think at the time it was like 150 billion or something to this nature. When he got married, he had a side chick that the wife knew about, and they came to an agreement that he can see her. Again, it's about being upfront. But notice that he wasn't going around with every, Jane on the planet. He had a certain sister that he was dealing with. So, it's hold on, what's going on? He says, honesty is a low bar. It doesn't mean you're not dysfunctional. Exactly. Y'all cutting up. Centavo says he's a free tribe agent. Appreciate your scholarship as usual. Appreciate you for listening, and appreciate your commentary. So, alrighty. Well, that's all I have for the moment, and so I'm gonna do part 2 for the Patreon members, and it's still kind of early. I'm gonna go make me something to eat because I'm hungry, and the local grocery store has solved my problem with food. I just got to, solve my own problem of making it. So, until next time, you can catch me on all the social media platforms. And of course, you can always make contributions via CashApp, or donate, via the asarimhotep website, or join the Patreon page where you get these kind of exclusive videos. So with that being said, y'all have a blessed week, and until next time, peace.